Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members of the Portfolio Committee, all the guests on the platform. Chair, I will hand over to you now. We have a quorum in the meeting. I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Llewellyn. Morning to everybody that is in the meeting. Can you please do us a roll call, Llewellyn?
Thank you, Chairperson.
Recording in progress.
Gaba. I have Honorable Adwins, Honorable Morwane, Honorable Morwasekla, Honorable Van Zyl, Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Sibisi. They are currently on the platform. Thank you, Chair. I haven't received any apologies to date. That is the roll call for now. Thank you.
All right. Okay, then. Can you fly to the agenda? Today, members, we are dealing with the Western Cape, a public hearing report. And then and then we are going to adopt the minutes of the 20th of can I then request Jens to adopt the agenda? Principal.
My chair, and good morning to you, and good morning to everyone on this all important platform, Portfolio Committee meeting on basic education. I rise this morning to move for the adoption of this agenda as a guideline to whatever is going to transpire this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Advance.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members. Good morning, everyone in the platform. I second the move to adopt the agenda as it is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Before we even go to the report itself, I just want to mention to the members that you would understand we said that we would work till the end of June and take a leave in July. So I wanted to discuss with you that we need to take a break for July, the whole July, as agreed. In my thinking, I thought the last meeting would still be in July, but I mean, we'll still be in June, but I see it is in July. I mean, so I'm proposing that we take a break for whole July. I mean, all of us, we need some break, and besides that, we also need to have time with our families, but also there's a lot of constituency work that we need to do, as we all understand that all our political parties are preparing for the elections. So I still maintain that the whole July we must be on leave. And then when we come back, we are going to have then we are going to have Northern Cape and Eastern Cape to adopt. And then what I have also omitted is that we would need to have a national report that would reflect then what the people of the country are saying with regards to BELA bill. So my plea with the committee, I think you can even feel at my brain, I think it's telling me that I'm supposed to be on leave. I'm supposed to be concentrating on my family. So that's what I am proposing to the members, that we take a break the whole July, And then we would come back in August to very early August. We are going to plan myself and the main com of the committee. We are going to plan how do we tackle the August to finish the 2 reports and the national report, and then we do clause by clause. We will finish this work before the term resumes, the 3rd term. And of course, I promised we would have been done with we would be queuing for tabling in Parliament. So that is the proposal that I'm making to the committee, if we do accept members. Principal?
Chairperson, I am rising once more to support the proposal put on the table. But at the same time, I want to add a rider, which I do not know how it will go down with the general membership of this portfolio committee. Honorable members of Parliament. My proposal would be, I agree that indeed today is the 27th, and it's obvious next week, Tuesday, it will be already be in July. But I would say, in as much as we would defer all this to August, I would say, is it possible, Chair, that on that day that will be sitting, to avoid meetings after meetings, we commit ourselves that we are going to do the 2 remaining provinces in one day. I so propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Principal. Marina, Honorable Fancy.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the members and also the administration and the department, if they are here. Chairperson, just on my side, I know we're only coming back after constituency period. I think it's the 28th of August, which means we will still be home. I wanted just some clarity on whether these has been approved by the Chair of Chairs, because obviously we can't be sitting when we want to, just because we want to. It must be ATC'd on the Z list. So if I can just get that clarity. And then on the second point is my further plea would then be that we do clause by clause, and the full South African report, that we do those in person. We can't be having those on virtual. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Look, the meeting that we are having today, it is approved, Marina. So the meetings that I'm referring to, that's why I'm saying we'll sit with MENCO, make a planning, and of course we will apply, and then we get approval. We will communicate via WhatsApp groups. Anyway, Parliament is the one that has permitted somehow that we must sit during constituency, all committees that have legislation, and we will be dealing with legislation. I don't think it's a problem, but I didn't want to talk with the Chair of Chairs before we have set this meeting and agreed on the approach. And then what's the other issue that we are raising?
The physical in-person for clause by clause and full
Oh
report.
yeah, no, that will need then other members to speak on it. She's proposing that when we deal with national report and the clause by clause report to be physical in Parliament. So this I'm handing over to the committee to also discuss this proposal from Honorable Fancy. Any hand? No hand? Honorable Adwans?
No, thank you very much.
She has no problems.
I hope I'm audible. I would want to, Chair, can I?
You are breaking, but try to proceed. Maybe we can pick up something.
Okay, I was saying that I would want to agree with the proposal by the principal that we do those 2 reports in one day. That is the first one. And the second one, that we must do clause by clause physical. I think it will also need to be discussed at Manco level for the issues of processing and planning. So issues of booking venues and other things. So I think we can now confirm if it is possible or not. But it's something that we need to look around it when we go management committee such issues. But I think it's something that needs to be. I don't have a problem with it, so I do support to propose it.
Okay. So what Advance is basically saying is that for the national report and close to close that is asked to be physically, let's refer it to MENCOM, and then MENCOM will be able to advise, because we need to book a venue, we need to arrange for lunch, we need to arrange for transport for members to go to Parliament, and it is so there are a lot of logistics around that, which I think it's a fair response. Any seconder to that? Papa Bantu na, Principal.
Yeah, my chair. I think in all honesty, the response by Honorable Advance makes a lot of sense. There are things which we can finalize on our own as a portfolio committee, but there are those things which affect other committees and other authorities for them to sanction. And indeed, you see, we cannot just say we are going physical without informing those responsible for the booking of transport to Parliament, and also the catering, and also the booking of halls. We will therefore, I would say, let's agree that we will leave this to MENCOM, and then they will communicate with us if it is feasible. But in any case, whether physical or not physical, like we've been doing in the past, I think we can be able to unravel and address these issues. If we do not get a nod, a positive nod from the committees relevant, I would say let us ready ourselves that we will virtually be able to address all these things and without fail. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I was saying this in support of the input by the Honorable Major Fro Aduans. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Principal. Fansail, I think it makes sense, ne?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just know that we do struggle with virtual, with, Honourable Adwins, for instance, today having network issues. So I'm just trying to avoid those, dealing with the reports such as the clause by clause debates, that we have troubles in not being able to connect or having bad connection. So I think we must really try and source the venue for that. Thank you.
Okay. All right then. Menko then will deal with that. Okay, so I think we have agreed one that we are moving Eastern Cape and Northern Cape to August, very early August. We are taking the whole July off. We will do our constituency work, our political work, but also we will be doing. We will be at least having some time with our families the whole July. So we'll come back August to deal with those two reports and have a national report that will give a reflection of the whole country. And then after that, we would go immediately to clause by clause meetings. So when Parliament resumes on the 28th of August, we would be done by that. We would be done by that. We are going to have this discussion at the MENCOM, and then we are going to take everyone that has been considered, for instance, to have fiscal meetings, even though it is a constituency. If it is approved, if we are approved, all the logistics that we have been talking about, that's the matter that the MENCOM will look at and revert back to the committee. And then the last thing, I just want to brief members that you'd know that we had applied for a study tour to Finland, which was approved. It was approved, but then it was approved for the dates which we have applied for, which was the dates of July, I think. So after it was approved, there was a need then for our secretary to make a new codes, because those were estimated codes, and then new to speak also with now the embassies. And then after speaking with the embassies, there was an advice from embassy that we cannot travel during July and August, because the holidays in Finland are 2 months. It's both July and August. There is no schooling. So it will be a futile exercise for us to go in July. So they advised that if we want to go then to Finland, the best time to go to Finland would be September. So what has happened then, now we must make a new application, and that application would have to speak to September, to the dates that we have been advised by the Finland embassy. It does make sense because we deal with schools, so we cannot go to a country for a study tour and then we are not going to be able to visit one school because they would have been closed. That was for just sharing how far we are and what is going on. So if it will be approved, the trip will basically be in September. Thank you very much, Sis Posh. Can I hand over to you now to give us the Western Cape report?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, present and members of the Portfolio Committee. Allow me to screen share the report. I also want to greet our colleagues from the department. I also extend gratitude to our unit department.
Yeah, Chairperson.
Yes.
It appears we are going to have a terrible handicap. Osposia, it's cutting, and she's basically the key person in the presentation of the reports. I thought by now you would have asked a spot from the neighborhood, what you call, where she could be audible. I don't know, but I see this frustrating, the smooth running of a report making. Thank you very much.
Sis Posh, wherever you are, probably you must try to move. I don't know where you were last week, but no, you are making things worse now when you put on the video. Your network is very bad. So can you try now? Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Chair. Can you allow me? I'm in Parliament. I asked for a space the fifth floor. Let me try.
Can you proceed? Can you proceed? Can you proceed? You are fine now.
Thank you, Chair. I will allow allow me, honorable members, to highlight the report of the Western Cape Provincial public hearings, which were conducted on the 26th of May to the 28th of May. Page 2 of the report outlines the table of contents. The table of contents are generic for each and every province. Page 3 of the report outlines the members of the portfolio committee who were present during the public hearings. These are Honorable Mbimo Gigaba, the chairperson, Honorable Adwans, the whip of the committee, Honorable Murasetla, Honorable Letsie, Honorable Yabo, Honorable Nodada, Honorable Van Zyl, and Honorable Sukes. If I've left out any member, we'll rectify that in the revised report. Page 4 gives out an outline, the introduction to the Western. The portfolio committee conducted the public hearings at George Local Municipality, Wittenberg Local Municipality, and the city of Cape Town from the 26th to the 26th. Also highlighted are the districts and the municipalities where the public hearings were conducted. George, the venue was Pacalstock Community Hall. In Wittenberg, it was Woolsley, Montana. In the city of Cape Town, that is the Cape Metropole, the venue was Guguletu Indoor Sports Complex. With regards to the attendees in the Western Cape, there were about 1,043 participants who attended the Western Cape public hearings. Out of the 1,043 participants, 174 made oral submissions, which constitute 16.7% of the total number of attendees. There were also 451 participants who opted to submit submission forms as they were registered and had attended at the 3 venues. That number constitutes a total of 43.2% of those who submitted the handwritten submissions. With regards to the public participation process on the BELA bill, this is also standard information. For the Western Cape, the information to inform the public was released on the 19th of May to ensure that the public in the Western Cape is informed and that Parliament is using this process to ensure that, as per mandate of the public participation model, the people have been informed and that they should come on board knowing that they were informed prior to the public hearings. At the bottom of page 5, it outlines the public participation model which the committee would follow in line with the processes of Parliament. On page 6, preparatory work which was done beforehand for the public participation process. On the 24th of May, prior to the public hearings, a Zoom meeting was conducted by our management with internal stakeholders to ensure that the state of readiness for the public hearings is conducted so that all people who will be mobilized and deployed to work have report on the work that they've done to ensure a smooth running public participation process in the Western Cape. These units are the Parliamentary Communication Services, the Supply Chain Management, the Logistics, the ICT, Share Unit, Publication Office, the NPDOs, including PR.
A bidder that is not registered for VAT cannot provide the organ of state with a VAT amount. The bidder price to be
What's
considered
going on now?
within the total cost of VAT.
It's not on my
What
side.
is going on? Advocate
Not my
Misa,
side.
proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Page 6 of the report, section 5, outlines the public involvement and stakeholder awareness. The Public Education Office staff who were deployed for the Western Cape confirmed that the office had provided stakeholder awareness sessions in George local municipality, and that in the Wittenberg area, they liaised with the parliamentary constituency offices, as well as they worked in the city of Cape Town. They ensured that the sessions were conducted and that information was sent to stakeholders via WhatsApp, and also some pamphlets which they utilized in all 3 official languages, including the Braille, for those who are visually impaired. With regards to the communication strategy, the Parliamentary Communication Services produced WhatsApp posters, video promos on the BELA bill, and these were shared in terms of the content which was outlining the venues of where the public hearings will be conducted. Also, the radio, which is Cape Talk Radio for the Western Cape, was utilized to channel the information to the public. The diagram below outlines the details of the Western Cape public hearings in terms of the district, the area, the local municipality, the venue, the date and time. This information is also accessible on the parliamentary website. These are all the venues the committee had visited. Page 8 of the report outlines the stakeholders that were present, who attended at the public hearings. I'd like to share that there were political parties, there were the Khoisan traditional leadership, there were school governing bodies, learner and youth formations, teacher unions, civic communication structures, Western Cape League Board, African National Congress, African Christian Democratic Party, AfriForum, Greater River Valley Education Forum, Concerned Parents, Concerned Activists, the Department of Higher Education, the Democratic Alliance, the FEDSAS, Guguletu Health Forum, municipality councillors of George and Woolsley were present, the pastors from the religious sectors, the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU, the South African National Civics Organization, SANCO, South African Students Organization, SASCO, Stellenbosch Backyarders Dwellers Forum, the youth or learner organizations were present, Yona Yetu Initiative, and last one I mentioned was the Western Cape Legal Authority. Page 9 of the report outlines the role of the Basic Education Department at the public hearing. The Department of Basic Education was given a space to outline to the public what the BELA bill seeks to change or seeks to amend in the education sector. The Chief Director, Mr. Ndlebe, outlined the following, that the bill is seeking to change or make changes in terms of how the grade R or the new compulsory starting age will be, criminalizing of parents who don't ensure that their children are in school, holding school governing bodies accountable for financial interest, abolishment of corporal punishment, encouraging homeschool learners to be registered, the issue of schools selling alcohol outside of the school premises, giving government department HODs power over language policies and curriculum, prohibiting educators from conducting business with the state. This was just a summary, but not necessarily the entire bill. So in that way, the public were also engaged in terms of what this bill is all about and why the committee had visited the municipality. Page 10 of the report outlines section 7 on attendance and participation in all the 3 municipalities. Honorable members, at the Western Cape public hearings, as I indicated, there were 1,043 public members who came on board. For George municipality, there were 407 attendees and 43 speakers. For Wittenberg local municipality, there were 221 attendees and 66 speakers. For the city of Cape Town, there were 415 attendees and 65 speakers. In view of the above graphical information on attendees and speakers per municipality, it transpires that at the Cape Metropole, there were most participants who attended. However, at Wittenberg, there were more oral speakers, which is they were at about 66 compared to the other 2 municipalities. Page 11 of the report outlines the gender representation in terms of speakers. participated. At George Municipality, there were 24 females and 90 male speakers. Wittenberg, there were 40 females and 26 male speakers. At Cape Metropole, there were 40 females and 25 male speakers. Overall, in the Western Cape province, there were 104 female speakers and 70 male speakers. Interestingly enough, the female speakers representation was equal at Wittenberg as well as Cape Metropole. So out of the 174 speakers across the metropole, female representation was at 59%, while male representation was at 40.2%, meaning that the females speakers were more dominant in all the three municipalities. From a gender analytical point of view, one would note that one of the contributing factors could be that the Western Cape population, according to the statistics, cite that in every 100 women, there are 96 men, which implies that the percentage of women to men in the Western Cape is more prevalent. Another plausible explanation could be that women take more interest in the education of their children. Page 12 of the report outlines the youth and children's participation in the Western Cape. This is also another generic information that we provided, that the committee noted the participation of youth and children during the public hearings, which could be marked for a recognition of the youth or children's role in a legislative process to promote participatory democracy. In the Western Cape municipalities, which I will start with George, there were 9, Wittenberg 16, Metropole 5. Total, there were 29 for children that participated as speakers, which therefore constitute 16.6% of the total number of speakers that presented themselves. And the most were present at the Wittenberg municipality with 52% there. Page 13 of the report, section 8, outline the speakers on the BELA bill for the entire province. Starting with the George municipality, the blue shade indicates participants who spoke in support of the bill. The orange color indicates the participants or speakers who were not in support of the bill. The gray color indicates the participants who were partial, and the yellow is unspecified. In terms of the numbers, in George, 5 supported, 38 did not support. At Wittenberg, 11 supported, 53 rejected, 1 was partial, 1 was unspecified. At Cape Metropole, City of Cape Town, 18 supported, 45 rejected. Overall total, 34 speakers supported the bill and 136 rejected the bill, whilst 2 were partial and 2 were also unspecified. This is the information regarding the number of speakers that spoke on the BELA bill in the present. Page 14 of the report outlines numbers in graphical representation. What does these figures represent in terms of percentages? As we calculated in the analysis of the report, those who said yes at 34 constitute 20% of the attendees that said yes. Those who rejected the bill at 136 constituted 78%. Those who said were partial was 2, which is 1%, and unspecified was also 1%. That is the information, honorable members, with regards to the analytics of the. Page 15 outlines the quality of participation. Quality of participation was determined by level of participation as well as the process of participation. In all 3 municipalities, the attendance was good, which demonstrates that the public was interested and was keen to participate. Even though the public hearings were successful, when we analyze the process of participation at George local municipality in particular, there were issues of note related to service delivery that were expressed by some members of the public, which to some extent, the sentiments were concern of security members of the portfolio committee. Also noted was the issue that the public were referring to issues related to land, of which such issues were not necessarily covered by the BELA bill. We had noted that as much as land is an important issue and is a serious issue for this country at large, another thing that we had noted that there was on more than one occasion a participant who kept on interrupting the chairperson on an issue which was unrelated to the bill again, but happening outside. How that was resolved was such that the issue of the branding that he kept on referring to was then referred to that it must be dealt with outside. But such processes, why we had to outline that, are such that in a way of enhancing public participation, there's a question whereby perhaps as we move forward, it is important that stakeholders are taken to understand, first and foremost, what is the bill content? What are the clauses covered, even if it's on a summary level, so that when participants come to present, they present on issues which are related to the bill the most. Also, another thing that we have noted is that in future, as we recommend as well, sitting and observing, participants need to be taken through the parliamentary protocol of public hearing before, so that as they come forward to stand and to express their views in front of the portfolio committee and in front of the public, every public hearing session is a parliamentary session, and therefore public should conduct themselves such that this is a session and a sitting of parliament. So it's things that we had noted that to enhance the quality of participation, we need to address that forward. Page 16 of the report alludes to the clauses that featured prominently during the public hearing. Clauses which were supported are clause 2, clause 3, clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7, clause 37, clause 41, clause 51. Clauses which were not supported are clause 4, clause 5, clause 8a, clause 10, clause 13, clause 14, clause 16, clause 21, clause 27, clause 37, and clause 41. Divergent views had vacillated between some support or some not support. Were clauses 2, clauses 4, clause 5, clause 37, clause 41. We will unpack this further in the report, but for now, it was just to highlight those that we're featuring. Section 9 of the report, honorable members, outlines the summary of views that emerged on the submissions and the oral speakers. Comments on clause 2 indicated that those who support the bill looked at great R issue into the incorporation into mainstream as a process that is long overdue. However, on the motivation, the speakers had indicated that grade R educators should be appointed in line with the employment of educators. On the issue of the increase of the penalty clause, there was also a comment that says this needs to be reviewed. Those who were objecting to clause 2, we have cited the Genesis Rural Development, indicated that grade R schooling should be addressed because school fees are a bit high. One submitter indicated that grade R implementation is taking away the opportunities from the communities which already were running creches. The participants from the ACDP agreed with the proposed compulsory grade R. On clause 3, which is monitoring of learner attendance, those in support referred to the child-headed homes, that some homes, there are no adults, there are no guardian. Children are looking at the homes as children. So when this clause is inserted or amended, there's a recommendation that child-headed families need to be clarified when it comes to imprisonment sentence in this bill. On clause 4, the clause that relates to the admission of a child at a school, those in support indicated that addressing the issue of admission and the issues of access and also requires that it should be promoting equity, hence they were supporting it. Those who are against it alluded that it takes away the opportunities from the communities that has established those creches. On clause 5, those who supported the proposed clause, amongst others, include SADU and Yonayetu Initiative. They indicate that the bill is addressing the language policy in public schools because in the former model schools, English is used as a language of instruction, even though learners do not necessarily, some of them, speak that language. And also that the bill provides a clear provision to regulate the language policy, and this will assist, therefore, clause 4 on the admissions. One proposal that was made was that schools and communities should keep their power to decide what is best for the children. I'll go to clause 8. Clause 8 was unanimously rejected by most speakers. That is, either those who were supporting the bill, also rejecting, but unanimously, this clause was rejected. The objection was based on the fact that the country is exacerbated with substance abuse issues, social ills, and risk associated with the use of alcohol. Clause 10 on the issue of abolishment of corporal punishment. SADU had supported the proposed clause in the sense that learner discipline is critical also to safeguard the teachers from the abuse by learners. A submitter from Ganyezi project had indicated that the government had failed the children, that many children are undisciplined and unruly as there were no forms of punishment for such learners. On clause 14, some of the oral and written submitters objected to this clause as it subjects SGP members to invasive audits when they have to present their personal financial details. Clause 15 on the use of the schools for education-related activities without the charges of fees. There was a proposal. The proposal was opposed as it allows the department to commandeer school facilities. Some were saying it's a unilateral use of school facilities. On clause 16, on the issue of HOD powers, centrally procure the identified learning and support material for public schools, some submitters proposed to oppose the centralized procurement of school supplies. Clause 21 was opposed. Clause 27, the closure of public schools, in particular the MEC role undertaking was, this clause was rejected by some speakers. Some indication was that when schools are closed in local areas, the department must take into account that there are young learners who have to travel to long distances. And oftentimes high schools are very far, and those who stay in hostels tend to leave families. And then when they're out there, it becomes a challenge for the learners. One parent had alluded to a situation whereby where the school was closed, the department did not intervene when it was expected. And later on, they discovered that the school was closed prematurely. A recommendation was that farm schools should be left as is, and that they should not be closed. On clause 33, which alludes to the financial records and statements of public schools, SADTU had noted that SGBs play an important role, but they cannot be referee and players at the same time. So even though SADTU has supported this, they are indicating that members of the SGB have to submit quarterly financial statements, whilst others had rejected this clause. On clause 37, honorable members, it's coming from page 19 to page 20. But what I would like to outline on education the most, speakers who supported the proposed clause, SADTU being one of them, indicated that clause 37 should not be removed from. Further noted is that those who spoke for home education were of the view that while the majority did not have finances nor time for homeschooling, home education was for those who afford it. Similar sentiments were also expressed by SANCO members who said only the rich and the privileged could afford homeschooling, but poor families cannot afford it. SADTU also supports the appointment of external assessors for assessing homeschoolers. Page 20 outline the opinions and the views of those who rejected home education. Those who rejected the bill and the clause in particular, amongst them the home educators, the homeschooling parents, ACDP, the DA, homeschooling learners, raised a number of issues that they have regarding this clause. What I would cite beforehand is that they are indicating primarily the issue that the rights of parents to choose for learning of their parents, of their children. The TEPS curriculum, the curriculum, the issue of the issue of the learners letting it, and the lack of research and economic issue. Those are in summary form issues that the home education sector and those who are against clause 37 are alluding to. They were saying this clause takes away the parents' right to choose and contradicts the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The bill is in conflict with the Bill of Rights. It violates the the rights of children to be homeschooled. The bill seeks to prescribe the curriculum, and the CAPS content did not give room for skills development. Some children are homeschooled because of learning difficulties. And then they explain that, for example, some situations, children are diagnosed with ADHD, some are learners with learning disabilities of many range, which they also outlined, and that DP is not able to attend to children's individual needs. Therefore, homeschooling for them is a better option. That homeschooling takes place in a safe environment, flexible schedules, and on the issue of appointing assessors, they saw this as unnecessary, and that home visitors by strangers was an invasion of a child and a family privacy, that the clause infringes on religious freedoms, that no research was done and little was done in terms of engagement with the homeschooling sector. Therefore, this clause 37 is not the best interest. That's primarily what education sector is. I've touched it today. Page 21 of the report also highlights clause 41 on management of learner pregnancy. Those who reject the proposed clause again was the ACDP. They oppose the clause on learner pregnancies in the sense that they are indicating that the children, according to this clause, were to receive contraceptive. They reject the clause because it allows the minister to make regulations concerning learner pregnancy. The policy on prevention of learner pregnancy is through sexual reproductive health services, which speaks about abortion. They look at this as a transgression of parental rights. Also, teachers will refer pregnant learners for abortion without parents' consent. Therefore, the issue of parent consent was an issue that the DBE was forcing comprehensive sexual education in schools, and that those who don't want to comply will be punished, and that those who don't also comply, some consequences would be followed up. Now, the proposal that was being made by the ACTP was that more should be done about the protection of learners' sexual abuse cases, and that children should not be subjected to sexual education. Page 22, honorable members, outlines now the report per municipality. Here we'll start with the George local municipality. What are the key emerging issues that emerge in George? It was the compulsory grade R, admissions policy, language policy, abolishment of corporal punishment, centralization of procurement, closure of non-viable schools, home education, powers of the minister to make regulations, management of learner pregnancy. We also noted there were service delivery issues raised in that many schools lacked proper schools and ablution facilities, as the speakers was expressing that the department should address high school dropout rates and that there's increase of crime in the communities. Concerns were raised regarding school tenders not given to the local communities surrounding the schools. Concern was raised regarding the cost of sending learners to colleges and that bursaries are not being awarded to learners who really need them the most. Another concern was that there are still learners who are without teachers at their schools, and that the circuit managers was approached to assist these learners. However, there was no action by the circuit manager concerned in this particular municipality. For the Wittenberg local community, the visit was on the 27th of May. Key issues emerged almost similar to George: the grade R, compulsory grade R, monitoring of learner attendance, powers to determine language and admission policies, selling of alcohol on school premises, centralization of procurement, closure of non-viable schools, support for inclusive education, home education, management of learner pregnancy, powers of the minister to make regulations. At the bottom of the report on page 23, highlights the service delivery issues and other issues raised. One submitter raised that in the Wittenberg area, there's lack of primary and secondary schools. There's high dropout rate due to overcrowding the classrooms, and that some learners were reporting issues of being bullied. The passing of the bill will outlaw educational freedom. This one came from the whole schooling sector, which binds their children to educational and spiritual, that would essentially then bind their children to educational and spiritual poverty. The participants were against the introduction of the unisex toilet, were indicating that sex education without parental consent was not welcomed. On page 24, are the comments which were made. But what I would like to do with this page, I would rather look at the clauses that I had not cited in the previous report, because some of them seems to be generic. If one looks at FEFSAS and SATU, for clause 2 in particular, they were proposing that the incorporation of the grade R is welcomed. And then those who rejected, a participant from the Stellenbosch Backyard Dwellers Forum opposed the clause to criminalization of parents and indicated that parents do not know the circumstances as to why children are not at school. One participant also highlighted a research which was done by Dorothy Raymond Ray, whereby the success in formal education is dependent on early childhood development, and that the results are better guaranteed when formal education starts later. Clause 3, one submitter proposed that the child-headed family's predicament needs to be clarified when it comes to prison sentences. On clause 4, SATU member, one of them questioned how will this impact on the compulsory age of learners, and further questioned whether a child who completed grade R at a younger age would be allowed to enter grade 1 at a younger age. And SATU had also noted that they have observed that many schools were denying learners access through their admission policies. On clause 5, one ANC member said he supports the proposed amendments because it will bring about social cohesion. One concerned parent reminded the public that in 1976, the student uprisings was about the choice of language and curriculum being enforced on people. So the bill, by the look of things, according to him or her, wanted to do the same. A member of the AfriForum member said that the bill will be scrapped and that should be done away completely. The submitter indicated that schools have a right to have a say about the language and education policies, and that the bill seems to increase the use of English language in schools at the cost of mother tongue language. On the issue of Code 7, or Clause 7, which is about the adoption of schools code of conduct, SATU supports this proposed amendment. It also noted that the exemption of this clause on amending the code of conduct is based on accommodating different cultural and religious backgrounds of learners. They also had alluded to the word code of conduct in the policy, which many schools have also used it in a discriminatory way, thus exempting some learners when they were doing applications. On Clause 8, the Western Cape Liquor Authority supported the bill and had advised that each province has its own liquor authority. So they must look at the liquor regulations. What do the liquor regulations say for each province? And the motivation or recommendation made by the liquor board was that, not the board, but the liquor authority was that there was a plea that learners must be safeguarded from alcohol and drugs. Schools should not allow any sale of contrabands. SATU had also proposed that the sale of alcohol on school premises need more clarity, including when there are events, either outside the school premises, and that the Clause 8A needs to be reviewed. Clause 10 on the abolishment of corporal punishment. A submitter that rejected this clause argued that the novice teachers, that is those who are emergent early career teachers, find it difficult to deal with violent learners. Therefore, there should be alternatives to corporal punishment, and that they should be available for them also to understand. On clause 14, AfriForum seemed to have been against the disclosure of financial interests of it. And clause 16, FEDSAS rejected the proposed amendment on central procurement, noting that schools are better equipped to decide on learning and purchasing of learning and support materials schools. Clause 24, FEDSAS is supporting this one, that it will provide uniform and national requirements for the appointment of SGBs. Clause 26, the ANC's member supported the proposed amendment. Clause 27, some submitters rejected proposed amendment. Clause 37, those who supported clause 37, amongst others, SATU and the ANC members, they proposed that homeschooling should be regulated. One submitter, who is a councillor, proposed that the public schools must apply the same for homeschooling. That is, where registration is concerned for public schools, it should be the same for homeschooling. And that the BELA bill should not be a law for public schools versus a law for homeschools. It must be a BELA bill for all. Those who rejected the clause, that is the homeschooling parents, former and current homeschool learners, homeschool practitioners, ACDB, the DA, some concerned parents, rejected the bill, having argued that homeschooling provides more options to the education. One submitter even indicated that we just need alternative sources of electricity. We need variety of transport types. We need variety of education modalities. Therefore, the curricula as it stands cannot address the needs of all these children. Hence, they were motivating for home education. As with other forms of alternative education, home education is a complementary means of ensuring that children have access to pertinent education, and that home education is not school at home. Therefore, trying to apply the paradigms of school as the bill suggests will not work. They question why the DPE uses the law to force more children to be in the system. On clause 41, one home school parent rejected clause 41, arguing that it seeks to extend powers of the minister to make regulations on various issues without prior consultation of parents. She believes that this is a blaring red light of potential grab of power with no consequent protection in place for learners, parents, or even educators who might lose their right to choose what is best for their children. Also, this parent rejected the issue of the sexual reproduction education for young children, indicating that the minister can fine and jail parents who opt not to implement the policies in accordance to how they understood the clause. City of Cape Town at the Guletu Indoor Sports Complex, the committee visited on the 28th of May. Key issues emerging was powers of the SGB, through the standardization powers to D, compulsory grade R, admission and language policy, abolishment of corporal punishment, selling of alcohol, the issue of youth unemployment, closure of non-viable schools, home education, powers of the minister to make regulations, and management of learner pregnancies. For this particular municipality, those in support of clause 2 indicated that investment in early childhood is key. Therefore, the clause is supported. Further supported is the issue of integration of grade R in the system that to provide grade R teachers with permanent employment. They also echo the sentiment that the grade R teachers must be employed or should be employed under the Employment of Educators Act, and that this provision should be catered for the budget of the department. On the issue of the clause on the penalty, that is subsection 6, that would that teachers have a legal right, its rights, which they are allowed to exercise by virtue of the legal rights. And that another ANC member indicated that individual teachers are also supporting this clause of grade R, and those who are supporting it also indicated the benefits it will provide to the learners. In particular, the issue of inclusivity when it comes to equity in a country that has vast inequalities. One homeschooler parent who's opposed to the proposed compulsory clause 2 indicated that grade R, why are funds meant to support the implementation of grade R not being used to correct other challenges at schools? On clause 3, that we had supported the proposed amendment and that the department must look at further interaction between the parents and the school in respect of learner attendance, and that the department should also consider employing truancy officers to better address the issue of learner attendance and absenteeism rather than applying jail sentences. On clause 4, start to support the aid who will assist with regards to the issue of admission, where the issue of access is concerned at schools. The Democratic Alliance opposed government having powers over admission and language policy. They further argued that the government is attempting to centralize speaking. And another point that they raise is that the issue of documentation, they opposed to the documentation required by learners to be admitted to schools, arguing that this was too cumbersome. TETSAS rejected the proposed amendment that these powers should be vested with SGPs. On clause 5, SATU is supporting the proposed language amendments. However, they indicate that it requires more clarification and guidance in instances where language policy is used to deny learner access to school. Further noted is that the bill lacks some clarity about mother tongue instruction, and this affects the majority of learners. Another SATU member supported the clause and made a reference to the domestic workers that are employed in communities where their children cannot go to these schools, and yet they work in such areas. So they indicated that the parents live there, but because of language policies, it becomes a challenge for their own children to be in such schools. So it's a matter that needs to be taken. SATU supports that HOD be the final arbiter, especially in cases of exclusion. The DA had indicated that parents must have the right to decide on the language of tuition for their children. The state should only intervene when language policy is used to discriminate, and that the DPE should focus on developing curriculum in, oh, sorry, this was not for SATU, for the A part, for SATU. That was indicating DPE should focus on developing curriculum in all languages to ensure that learners have access to mother tongue education. Page 33 of the report, I'll go to clause 6. Clause 6 alludes to the appointment of advisors on national curriculum and assessment. SATU is supporting the proposed amendment to empower the minister to appoint the advisors on the issue of curriculum. That the minister is allowed to obtain inputs from a broader spectrum of people. Statues also encourage that there should be consultation with critical stakeholders. Of the motivation, they are indicating that provision should be made in the bill for stakeholders to have a say in terms of the consultancy or the consultation on the advisory. When the minister is going to embark on this, SATU must be consulted, and that stakeholders should be allowed to participate more meaningfully so that the process is participatory. Clause 8, I won't repeat this one, almost the same. They are supporting the prohibition of not only alcohol, but other dangerous substances. Now let's go to clause 17, which we has not cited. On clause 17, an ANC member supported the proposed amendment, arguing that it assists in removing thieves in the SGP. There was an incident that they cited that sometimes or oftentimes the SGPs utilize or are micromanaged on the issue of finances within the schools. So sometimes their functions are such that when they're being micromanaged, it becomes a problem. On clause 18, one submitter objected to the proposed clause. 21, the DA opposed to the minister having the power to dissolve an SGP. SATU said there was a need to address the reasons for closures of schools, and this must also take a participatory approach. The DA is opposed to the minister having decision-making powers on the formulation of the HLPs, which is clause 24. Clause 27. SATU indicated there was a need to address the reasons for closure, and that these closures had had some negative implications for parents in some communities. These in the highlighted bullets, highlighting proposals which were made, for example, where there were oppositions to the closure of the schools without predefined reasons, that small schools do not have challenges, small schools where there are challenges, particularly rural and farming communities, that there are too many learners not in school, and therefore the closure of schools will deprive learners of their education closest to the communities where they live. Another submitter who supports the bill raised a concern with the closure of schools where there was a poor literacy rate in the country. That is, why are you closing schools? Whereas in the country, these schools can also be used as schools for adult education programs and any other program that can empower the community at large. Clause 33 was an objection to the state intervention in SGPs and school management, that another note being given that it seems to burden parents as it will need to minimizing the time for education of learners. Clause 37, supporters of clause 37 for that homeschooling do need to be prescribed in accordance with approved and basic standard curriculum. People at the public hearings also gave the view that homeschooling is not supported by the South African Act, when in actual fact, the South African Schools Act does support homeschooling. It just alludes to the issue of interpretation or misinterpretation. Homeschooling is for the elite. That's what others have said, that local communities don't necessarily have the capability and the capacity to homeschooling. SASCO on clause 37 had indicated that the matters on clause 37 somehow are misconstrued, that others see the clause that it seems to discriminate against the poor, as home education will only be available to those who can afford it. Then the expression from those who reject the clause 37, which is homeschool parents, current former learners, the practitioners, the ACDP, the DA, people concerned or the parents concerned, are rejecting it on the following grounds. that a registered teacher made an example that during the days, this teacher saw learners who did not fit into the school structure. Hence, she opted to do homeschooling. So she's opposed to the bill because it is taking away the freedom to choose what is best for her child. That learners need to feel safe in schools, that homeschooling allows learners to be safe, and that at home they do not necessarily face any forms of bullying. There was also an objection to the clause on the basis that children who struggle with anxiety, depression, and other mental issues learn freely when they are on their own and with their parents to understand. And having to comply with Section 55 as amended would not assist in offering restorative education. So local communities would need to be empowered not to necessarily have one-size-all approach to it. On the left side column were all the indicators of the motivations that the homeschooling sector had proposed. For example, that the curriculum and assessment methods should be discretion of the parent, that this clause is protecting the freedom of choice should be included in the bill, and they're proposing that assessments should be viewed as private and should only be requested by DBE or HOD when there's a strong suspicion of educational neglect, and that assessments and home visits are not in the best interest of the learner and should be removed. Home education should be seen as a solution to education, not as a problem. The bill should be clearly worded with no chance for conflicting interpretation. Another point raised was the fact that keeping the bill in its current form will lead to unknown financial burden on the parents. The bill threatens to erode the principle on the right to education as enshrined in the Freedom Charter. Current education system is one-dimensional and perpetuates apartheid legacy. It does not equip the future. The state is failing in its obligation under the national law to lay down the minimum requirements standards which now deprive the learners of their rights because of this such failure. There was a mention of the US hybrid model in relation to homeschooling and cottage schools, which are seen by the submitters to be an added advantage that must be met. The clause on the power of the minister to make regulations to homeschooling, they oppose this one to indicate that the proposed amendment giving the minister power to make regulations on homeschooling is rejected. And then on clause 41, those who supported the proposed clause, SASCO in particular, indicated that submitters who object to clause 41 are anti-progressive and must understand the context of pregnancies, of learner pregnancy. Further, SASCO had indicated that those that fail to look at the spectrum of reality needs to be educated, needs to be informed that this decision, clause 41, is made to ensure that it is protecting children of school going age. And that those who object on this clause cannot just object if they do not understand the realities of townships like Good. So this was a supporter for clause 41. Another supporter of clause 41 had indicated that learners' future will be destroyed if they're not allowed to attend schools when they're pregnant. Therefore, they're supporting clause 41. Now, submitters who were against or rejecting clause 41, again is the ACTD and the TA, concerned parents argued that it will put an added pressure on teachers to manage learner pregnancy. Another issue raised was the power of the minister to make regulations. They opposed it. The issue on comprehensive sexual education was also opposed because they're indicating that scripted lesson plans of schools which force educators to teach CSE to learners is definitely not acceptable. The bill does not provide clear guidelines for teachers on how to treat pregnant girls, and that no teacher has a right to influence them without having to involve one's parents. They are opposed to allowing boys to identify as girls to use toilets. The referral of learners to abortion is also opposed, particularly girls who are young as 12 years, and teachers being compelled to refer students for abortion, and the issue of criminalizing parents and teachers. One submitter indicated that the bill remains a school abortion bill until the DPE publish the draft regulations, say who is writing the regulations, and include people of faith in the task team when the regulations. Another addition of this clause was that for it to be better understood, the bill must exclude any regulations reference to abortion or contraceptive. Clause 52, a submitter opposed the bill in totality, rejected the proposed amendment because the minister have all the powers to make regulations of norms and standards for staffing. This could deem the SGB consisting of parents of schoolers, principals, and guardians on important matters that are really not necessary. Thus, the minister then overrule any consent. They look at it, they could not manage. Page 41, we highlighted here issues that the department may take note of from everything that has been cited. So this page looks at issues for the DPE, also looks at issues for the state law advisors, and the next page you look at the issues for the committee to know. Now, what's the issue for the submitter the call for the department to address the student who are currently not in the start of transport. So transport being an issue not covered in the BELA bill, there's a request for intervention to be made. Because at local level, submitters indicated they've tried everything and there's no response from the province or the Western Cape Education Department. The issue of transport challenges is a big issue. Oftentimes, learners who are bused in these buses, there tends to be some cultural clashes or cultural differences. BELA Temba in particular, they cited that teachers are still not permanently employed. This requires a national intervention. Another submitter, they said there are only 2 primary schools and 2 high schools in Kayamandi, Stellenbosch, and that there's no adequate space in the sense that the population, the area, have been in a state where they need schools. The challenges with placement of learners from other countries due to age as well. One indicator was that there was a submitter who raised the issue that he had raised a whistleblower, and this person now feels victimized. One teacher submitted that there's an incorrect quintiling of schools. For example, a quintile 1 or 2 school being classified as a quintile 5 school. So the submitter was indicating that this needs to be reviewed because learners are not somehow, that's a different point. So where learners are coming from communities which are in impoverished areas, such schools cannot necessarily be classified as quintile 5. There's also another issue that learners are not allowed to repeat a grade even if they have failed. The issues for the state law advisors to note, submitters have made issues that indicate that there seems to be some conflicts with the provision of other laws. In particular, that the bill conflicts with what is contained in Article 26, subsection 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that parents have a right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to the children. Another issue that they raised was the fact that the Children's Act has measures in place to support and protect the child in case of neglect. The power of the HOD to decide if the child should be homeschooled, home educated or not violates Chapter 2, Section 28, subsection 2 of the Constitution. Further noted is that the HOD has no place, no jurisdiction to decide what would be in the best interest of their children. That the bill uses vague language, which can cause some inconsistencies by officials seeking to interpret it. The intent must be clear for all people and for all practices before the bill is passed, in particular, Clause 7, subsection 6. These are parting shots for the state law advisors. There could be more, but we felt this one, we help the state advisors note. On the issues that would be noted by the portfolio committee, these are additions on the majority of the oral submitters who did not support the bill across the three municipalities were against the following. Number one, they made reference to the unconstitutional, the power grabbing by the state, the powers of SGBs to determine admission and language policy, the SGB disclosure of financial interest, closure of non-viable schools, the rights of parents to choose their education type and the style of learning, homeschools in particular, their issues being registration of learners, the assessment, the visitors, the curriculum caps versus other curriculum types. They want some freedom there, the lack of consultation, lack of research, and the socio-economic impact assessment. Also of note is the issue of the power of the minister to determine the regulation and management of learner pregnancy in relation to abortion and comprehensive sexual education. So these ones, honorable members, are issues that they are against, which would imply that others, most probably, they are happy. On the recommendations, the recommendations that the committee consider are the following. There's a need to regulate homeschooling that was expressed, as it is an environment that can benefit not only the well-off, but also others who are not well-off. So the regulation must be balanced. They were also opposing that homeschooling should be scrapped. The challenges regarding safety and security should be addressed. The DPE should collaborate with other organizations regarding outs, where youth are having challenges regarding job opportunities, also that parents insist that learners should not be doing work, right? The issue of scholar transport in some areas be further investigated. There was a call and a recommendation from the Khoisan King requesting that the department use and rewrite the KISS textbooks. The bill should address inadequate spaces in schools, the issue of poor training of teachers, and indoor sports activities. On comments about the bill in its entirety, that the process to involve stakeholders should be a win-win for all, not a win for all, so that it can move the process forward. The issue of parents should not be fined and criminalized for decisions that are in the best interest of their children. The clause must be clear with no possibility of conflict in the interpretation, as is currently the case with clause 51, subsection 2, paragraph 3. Special need learners should be supported. Special need learners should be homeschooled. They identified the reason as expressed before, and that those who opt for homeschooling because of circumstances in public schools, like for example, being bullied by other students, parents, etc., they need to be taken care of and be given support. Those objecting the bill had indicated that the bill is against democracy and must regulate the smallest unit of family society, that the bill is unconstitutional and should be reconsidered in its entirety, that the bill will destroy everything good in education. It was being questioned whether the principles of participatory democracy were followed, and those deeply concerned indicated that the bill entrenched the current education and suppress education, that there's a need to formulate innovation, and they look at the bill as being problematic and unrealistic and reject the clauses in the bill where the ministry empowers arbitrarily. Another recommendation which was made reflected on the public hearing processes. Participants made a call for virtual platforms to be established to allow for those who cannot be present at the public hearing also. A SAFTU stands for South African Federation of Trade Unions, noted they did not receive the invitation in public hearings and had alluded that now public hearings should not only be for teacher unions, but other unions as well, because this bill in particular encapsulates a broad range of stakeholders, and something to be taken note of. And public hearings should include all role players, not only teachers. That we had proposed that on the issue of the school activity, they have a right to exercise the right to strike, and however, this must be aligned with the labor relations. One submitter had indicated that being restricted to 3 minutes was not sufficient. There was an issue also with the late release of the venues of where they are at, and that the comments that allow their speeches to be limited to a minimal engagement would lead to the bill being declared unconstitutional. Where no virtual hearings were conducted, it will mean that those who could not travel to the hearings were not necessarily included. So virtual hearings should be conducted. One submitter appreciated the fact that the people living with deaf challenges were able to participate in the processing of the bill, because in the venues, there were sign language interpreters for them. On the issue of the assessors, the appointment of assessors is not welcomed. They look at it as a must be at. The issue of standardization of assessment, unaffordable and done by external assessors, is something that the department can look at. The research issue should also include the family of the homeschoolers, and that CAPS assessment would be in a useless measure to measure the progress of the children. Another learner had that to allow someone to come into your home would be like inviting a stranger, which is now a trespassing act, which this particular learner indicated an offense as outlined in the Trespassing Act of 1959. They also alluded to the issue of freedom of choice, that through this bill, it gives the state powers over parents, and the clauses want to control children. The bill is infringing on the right of parents. However, the children do not belong to the state. So the Constitution protects that, and the families have freedom to pass on to the state. They are calling for extensive research done on which best the interest of their children. On the issue of consultation, no adequate research was conducted, that's what they're indicating, and in the lack of consultation, there should be some consultation with a homeschooling committee, and also that the process of the public participation, which they refer to it as a facade, that never in the first instance included homeschooling. So the bill in its stance right now should be such that the socio-economic impact which was done should include. On the issue of homeschooling, apologies, curriculum, the one-size-fits-all curriculum does not work. The CAPS curriculum is designed for teaching large groups of learners. It is not suitable for all. CAPS does not take into consideration that every child is unique, and therefore every child's learning capability and interest are unique. They made some examples whereby one learner would say they are experiencing some dyslexia, others challenges autism, anxiety, etc. Therefore, CAPS cannot be the benchmark of assessment for such. The clause 37 that was also summarizing the issue that they're making, that they don't seem being fit, that it undermines principles of transparency, accountability, and parental decision. This is the homeschooling once more. The issues that we've raised, that parents should only notify the department and not necessarily apply to homeschool. There are research being conducted, that there should be consultation. They are opposed to registration, that they don't need anyone's permission to do homeschooling, and they look at this as a problem in that parents now must school their learners and yet seek permission for registration. And they want this particular clause to be rejected. Research has spoken about it, the issue of special schools. Every child deserves an education that develop their unique set of skills. Special schools should be supported, and for the independent schools, homeschooling and cottage schools work well. And those that supported, it highlighted the recommendation that the bill will assist in positively managing the type of education which is for all. People who misrepresent what the bill is all about need further information and further education on what the bill seeks to change, to amend, and the transformation it brings for the country at large. The amendments are necessary in a developing nation, and it's long overdue. Submitters also noted that those opposing this bill seem to have confidence issues on the government of the day. The amendments will take the education further and improve where homeschooling should be registered according to those report. Homeschooling should be regulated. Homeschooling should be reviewed. Frontline learners should be supported, and this process should also be assisted by Department of Health personnel, that is Department of Education, working with tandem Department of Health. On the issue of jail punishment or imprisonment of parents, this clause needs some review and that alternatives. On small school community-based schools, they need to be registered, including independent schools, and they need to be subsidized. This will also create employment opportunities for youth. Honorable members, the section 15 of the report, page 50, now outlines the summary of the across the missing. The support use, the not support use, and the partial view. This is the section 15. Now, those who supported further note that they applaud grade R for compulsory schooling, and look at the inclusion of early childhood development benefit the learners, teachers, and thus improving quality of life. Supporters of the bill also argue that the admission and language policies, which in the past excluded certain learners, the bill seeks to promote that. They believe the bill will ensure access to uniformity in the public education system and will prevent a two-tier system of the who are being regulated for home public schooling and those who are not necessarily regulated. Also, they were arguing that for the poorer communities, there will be some improvement in the quality, and believe that the inclusion of the head of department in the issue of language and admission policies will prevent discriminatory tendencies, which in the past have excluded learners. Now, in the inclusion of the HOD to determine language and admission policies, it's a step in the right direction. Some speakers also alluded to the bill being primarily a national measurement guide for the election of the HDP to ensure that there's fairness in the processes. Also, those who are in favor look at this bill as a transformative, particularly historically disadvantaged children who had faced situations of being denied access to schools on language. They also indicated that clause 37 is necessary to ensure uniformity and addressing the issues of legislation. Next page, I'll go to those that do not support the bill. Speakers in the Western Cape who object to the bill primarily object on this bill on the basis of clause 14, clause 37, clause 41. Those against it argue that it seeks to inflate the power of the state and undermine the God-given institutionality guaranteed to the parents to make decisions about their children. In addition, they underscored clause 4 and clause 5 that it primarily strips away the powers and authorities of HDPs to determine the language and admission policies. In particular, they made mention of Afrikaans. The concern is that these amendments, as proposed, tend to inflate or undermine parental decision-making processes, thus removing authority over the HDP. On clause 8 in particular, participants were unanimously rejecting clause 8, which had proposed that there should be selling on alcohol in school premises. So they are arguing that there must be ban on schools for possession of alcohol, consumption, sales, including drugs. Also, the majority of speakers rejected clause 7. They cited the issue of the best interest of the children. Most parents argue that this represents, clause 7 represents government having an overreach and denying homeschooling some flexibility that they deserve. Also, they are alluding to the issue of clause 16, arguing that this clause would create a corruption and would erode transparency. They fear that the passing of clause 35 would grant the HOD the power to dissolve school governing body against the parent. And I think I'll repeat it. Those who are partial on page 51, these are participants who would neither support or neither reject the bill, but were in favor of the uniform and national measurements for HDP elections. They've argued for fairness and uniformity. Others believe that compulsory grade R is necessary for early childhood development, while others said grade R teachers, by the way, already benefit from the mainstream. Some supporters of the bill were partial in that there are concerns around requiring financial scrutiny, also a concern regarding criminalization of parents, the teachers for a protected right, which would negatively affect on the teaching and learning. They argued that the department must look at alternatives and that the department needs to conduct research, socio-economic analysis on homeschooling before. In the page 52, honorable members, was citing or putting an extract of that had raised their comments, but what one would note is that whatever they've written already in the report, but here we're making just some examples. For example, the political party, young youth learners, the diverse political parties, community members, activists, and the whole range of stakeholders get extracted, qualities, etc. And then at the conclusion, the chairperson then had indicated to the participants that their inputs are welcome. And as people had attended the public hearing, the committee will ensure that those who presented their views taken into account when the portfolio committee deliberates on the bill. Honorable members, the report ends here. I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Posh. Sure. Members, that's the Western Cape report. Any corrections? Honorable Sukars.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to all the colleagues on the platform and everyone listening in. Chair, mine is comment and to highlight. I must first say to Sis Portia and to a team, thank you for a very comprehensive report. Firstly, Chair, I also want to say thank you for Sis Portia for reminding us on the issues that was brought forward in Woolsley by the community leaders there that needs urgent attention, especially the issues around learner transportation that highlights the fallout on school closures. And there was the same comment on transportation was made by a speaker in George regarding that. Then in terms of the report under youth participation, it should be noted that a very high percentage, if not almost all of the youth who spoke were homeschoolers. And then on page 48, on independent schools, I just would ask that you remove the reference to homeschooling, as it is not a form of independent schooling. The comment about homeschooling working well should be in the homeschooling clause 37 section. Cottage schools are independent micro schools. So many who spoke asked that the bill create a space for these kind of schools. In Woolsley, 5 speakers addressed this issue and 5 in Guguletu, in 4 in George. And I'm motivating just to see the separation in terms of definitions. The following comment that I'm making is an interpretation and is more for notice of the committee in considering the reports that some who wanted homeschooling to be registered and monitored appear to be referring to these schools, which are often called homeschools. For example, when a speaker calls for those in homeschooling to be qualified like all other teachers in schools, they cannot be talking about homeschooling, or they have completely misunderstood homeschooling. And like I say, that is just for notice to the committee. A number of speakers asked that a clause be added to the BELA bill that protects the right to freedom, as was noted in the report. I'm just going to emphasize, and the freedom of curriculum choice and assessment. The committee may recall the speaker in Guguletu who spoke about her husband's sweet words. So the freedom of curriculum choice and assessment was a concern, with 54 speakers overall recording that. And then on the issue of participation, while it was requested in previous hearings, for instance, in KZN and Gauteng, there was a call for virtual hearings. It was raised several times in the Western Cape. Another major issue of concern was the lack of meaningful consultation, again highlighted in the report. I am emphasizing 16 speakers raised the issue. 26 speakers raised the issue, and this was well summarized in a submission that was made by a speaker in Woolsley. The timestamp there is 1 hour, 22 minutes, 38 seconds. And I think, Sis Portia, you've highlighted much of this. I suggest in the added as a specific comment at Woolsley because it summarizes all the issues in terms of participation. The concern was the principles of participatory democracy was not followed in preparing clause 37 of this bill. The DBE has no research on home education, and the consequence of that would be passing a law without the research means you have no idea if these laws will achieve the desired effect, and it could have many negative consequences. The process for public participation was flawed. The DBE approach to public consultation.
No. So can we correct the minutes? Because that's what I called for.
Exactly the point.
The
My
minutes
hand has been up.
and deal with what Sis Portia has done.
I am
So
dealing
don't come with your own inclusions and you want us to say it is correct.
It is not an inclusion. I'm dealing with the
No, that's
report.
what you are doing. You are including now your own things.
I am
Yeah,
not.
Corrections that we asked for.
Chair, on
Chairperson,
the point of
can
order,
we
I
come
did
in?
not do that. Can I
No,
just...
point of order to you.
No,
Point
No,
of
I'm
order to
ready.
yourself,
can
and
give
when
you
point
the
of order is
timestamp.
raised also to you, you need
I can-
at least
I can
to
give you the
understand that it
timestamp.
is
I am
raised.
sorry. I can, as Chair, I'm answering you. I can
My
give you
hand
the
is up
timestamp.
for a point of order, Chair.
I'm sorry.
My hand is up.
what
Order
I said.
sustained. You can speak, Honorable Murotse.
Yes, Chairperson, the report has been presented to the portfolio committee, and the report must be corrected where things are left out or where matters are unnecessarily added in before we adopt the report. Can we kindly do that? Because you see, if we start adding things as if we are at the discussion level, we would definitely be out of order. Hence, I'm raising this as a point of order. Thank you.
Are you done with correcting the report, Sukers? Thank you for order.
Chair. Yes, I note that. Chair, as I said, sorry, I missed your last sentence.
Are you done with corrections?
I have given corrections, Chair, and
Thank
I've
you.
said that that specific comment was left out. And I also need to say, where I put something for notice, I said it. I said that those issues that I have raised, I have just added the number of speakers. I did not give my own interpretation here. If I can give timestamps, I can, because I also go through the report. But I said, Sis Portia has raised all of this in the report, as is said by Honorable Morasletla now. The points of correction I have also noted where I made a correction, and I said that in terms of independent schools. And the other points
it's how we are taught from different organizations how you deal with corrections, because what you are making here is to input into the report, and I've asked for corrections. And your preface was a comprehensive report, but the very same comprehensive report, you are inputting a lot to it.
I think we have a
and that is my problem.
I think we have a difference of opinion because I did not share. As
Yes,
I said,
that's what now I think
made
we've got a
it
different
clear.
of opinions and understandings too.
Yes, that's right. But I think I've made my point.
Thank you. Can we adopt the reports? Principal.
My hand is up, and I believe it's conspicuous to one and everybody. Chairperson, I rise to move that this report as presented indeed is a true representation of what transpired during the public hearings in the 3 venues. Cape Town, Cape, Western Cape province. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Bo.
Thank you very much, Chair. I rise to second the move by Honorable Murat Setla to adopt the report as presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sis Posh, I just want to say to you, all your reports were comprehensive. You know, you should not even doubt what you are doing, that you are doing a good work. We are not going, report can't be comprehensive when they favor us. Reports can't be right when they favor what we believe in. Reports are comprehensive in the manner in which they are written, in the content, that is raised in the report, whether it's a content we like or a content that we don't like. And this struggle will continue. The struggle of this bill is going to continue. I just want you to soldier on, because you are dealing with politicians and you must continue doing your work in a manner in which serves this committee that you are employed to do. And I want to thank everybody. Thank you very much for being part of this meeting. Principal, sorry, I did not mention that you've lost a member of your family. And on behalf of the committee, I think we must say condolences to you and your family in large, hoping that you will be able to bury your beloved one very well, Principal. We are with you. Our hearts are with you. And please remain strong. Thank you very much, members. Please have a good rest till we meet in August and continue. Thank you very much.
Mandla.
Long live the chair.
Long live the chair,
Long live the
And
BELA bill, long live.
long live.
Comprehensive is comprehensive, whether you like it or not.
Recording stopped.